Today we're going to show you how to change the bearing bracket on your dryer. Really easy job. All we're going to need is a putty knife and a Phillips screwdriver. Let me show you how we do it. Now the first step in this repair will be to disconnect the power to the dryer. Simply pull the plug if it has one on it. If it's a direct wired dryer, then you'll need to locate the fuses or circuit breakers and turn those off. Next we'll remove the main top. There's a couple of spring clips in about 2 inches on either side. So with a putty knife, we'll locate those, depress them, lift up on the lid. Just open the lid up and we'll remove this ground strap at the back. And then lift the lid right off. Next we'll disconnect the 2 wire harnesses along the side here. Tuck that down out of the way. There are 2 Phillips screws that are located about 4 inches down on either side that hold the front panel to the cabinet. So we'll remove those. Now we can tilt the front panel forward, lower it down enough that you can disengage the hooks on the bottom of the front panel, and then we'll set that whole assembly aside. Next we're going to remove this little guard on the front, single Phillips screw. That will give us a little more room to remove the drum. Now there's an idler assembly that's located right in behind the blower. It has some spring tension on it, so we're going to release the tension on that spring and then roll the belt off the motor pulley. So reach in on one side till we locate that. Next, using the belt, we'll lift up on the back of the drum to disengage the bearing. And we're going to tilt it enough to get it through the opening. And then we'll set the drum assembly aside. Now the bracket is held in place with 2 5/16 screws come through to a little plate on the back. So we simply need to remove those. We just take the screws out far enough to disengage from the rear bracket. And we see that the grounding ball is still in place. Now we can remove those 2 screws. We can discard the old bracket. We'll line up the new bracket with the bearing housing. We'll start those 2 screws. And then next we need to retrieve the rear bracket so that we can start one of the screws into that. Now we can slide the assembly into place. That little slot in the back of the cabinet will line up with the bracket. And then we'll start one of the screws just by hand enough to grab the rear bracket. And line it up to start the other one. Make sure the ball is still in place, and then we can tighten up both of the screws. sure they're nice and snug. Check the socket of that rear bearing housing. If it needs a little bit of high temp lubricant, now would be the time to put that in. And then we're ready to reassemble. Now we're ready to reinstall the drum. We'll fit it through the opening. We'll lift that bearing up into the bearing holder. Push it down into place. Line the belt up roughly where it belongs. You'll see some marks on the drum. And then we need to wrap the belt around the idler pulley and the motor. Now there is a spring that puts tension on that idler pulley that is connected to the motor bracket, and we'll give you a close-up shot of that so you'll see where it connects in case you dislodge it. Now the orientation of the belt will be that it comes down the side of the drum, wraps around the motor pulley, and then up over top of the idler pulley. And when we rotate the drum, you should see the blower fan moving. Now we're ready to put the front panel back on. I want to make sure that we engage the slots on the bottom of the front panel with the two little tabs on the cabinet. And we'll have to lift up on the drum a bit to slide that front panel in to make sure that the front glides go into the drum opening. Next, we'll reinstall those two Phillips screws, one on either side. Make sure they're tight. Next, we'll reinstall the guard for the drum. Next, we'll reconnect the wire harnesses. And now we're ready to put the main top on. Simply locate the slots in the back of the main top, slide them over the hinges. Remember to reconnect the ground strap. You can pinch it closed to make sure it has a nice tight fit. Then simply snap the main top back into place. We'll reconnect the power and our repair is complete.